right, here we go.
We're very professional over here.
We're so professional. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Matty Mills. My pronouns are he and him.
I'm Brooke Blurton and my pronouns are she and her.
And before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge the custodians of the land on which we're recorded. Today, for me, that's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
And for me, it's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Let's get into
it. Oh my God, I'm so excited because beside me in the studio, I have the one and only director Ian Michael.
Hello.
And incredible actor Stephanie Sommerville.
Hi.
Oh, let's give them a round of applause.
Aww. I thought it was clicks. I'm going to lick. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm
Welcome.
super excited to have both of you with us in studio because right now at Sydney Theatre Company, Stolen by Jane Harrison is on stage, and I had the absolute privilege of coming to see you guys in the rehearsal room, but also to come to opening night. So I am so excited that I get to talk to you about it now in, full-length detail. Mm-hmm. How are you both?
Good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, could
Thanks
you
for having us.
introduce yourselves? Start with you, Ian. Who's your mob? Where are you from?
Ian Michael. I'm a Wilman Noongar man from the southwest of WA, and I'm the director of Stolen.
And my name is Stephanie Sommerville, and I'm a proud Mardu woman, which is from the Pilbara-Gascoyne region of WA, and my pronouns are she, her.
Oh, I love.
Deadly. I love when WA mob are like on the side. I'm like,
I
okay.
know.
Okay.
I feel like an outcast.
Hey.
Oh, I feel like an outcast because I'm all the way in bloody Nam in Melbourne.
But you're here in spirit, sis.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually such a honour. I haven't seen the play yet, and I actually did have tickets to the premiere, and I couldn't go because obviously it was in Sydney, and I live in Melbourne. But I've heard some great things from Matty and some great things from other people who have saw the premiere, and I just want to know more about the show and I guess how it sort of came back, because Ian, we have crossed paths before. So years ago, Ian and I were both nominated in a youth category for the WA Awards.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was gunning for Ian. I was like, nah, this, like, I just knew like what you were doing, writing, as a performer, like everything. And I was like, oh my God, you are just going to take off. And I've just been silently watching afar, and I have not ever felt like, do you know what I mean? Like I've just been like, yeah, you're fulfilling everything that I thought you would. Not that it matters about me, but I'm just saying, like, I just knew that, yeah. And I really would love to see Stolen, but could you please tell me, and I guess our listeners, more about the show and the synopsis and what it's about?
Yeah, Stolen is a play by Murrawari woman Jane Harrison. She started writing it in 1992. Jane was working in copywriting, and the company she was working for went under. And so she was looking through the newspaper looking for writing jobs, and Ilbidgery Theatre Company had posted an ad looking for a writer to write a play. And the idea of it was about the stolen generations, and the original title was called The Lost Children. And Jane worked with another person, a consultant, to find testimonials of stolen generations people, which then became the play, and they, wrote it over 6 years. Wow. So it premiered in 1998. And it tells the story of 5 children who kind of, in this non-linear way, transpose location and time over, decades. Ruby, Shirley, Sandy, Jimmy, and Anne, who exist in this institution home that we kind of find ourselves in and out through the play. There's a beautiful thing in it where it kind of tells this, what I love so much about the play, tells this kind of generational kind of narrative where at any time these children may or may not have ever existed in this home together. Which is, it's just beautiful strength of that play, and the writing is that it is and the original brief of it as well was not to just tell one story, but to tell a multitude of stories.
Yeah.
So we see these 5 characters and other various characters kind of come through this home. We see them as the youngest versions of themselves when they first enter the home, and then we see them through their adult lives once they've left, and their experiences and their memories and everything that they go through as adults. I feel like so privileged to have been able to make it, because for me it's been a play that has circled my life so much as an adult and as a theatre maker, and really inspired me a lot. The monologue "A Can of Peas," which is in the play, was the first monologue I ever learnt as an actor as well.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's a play that for all of us is kind of like we've either done scenes from it or we've read about it a lot, and to be able to kind of continue the legacy of it has been really, really special, and I've just pinching myself with the people that I've got to make it with. So
that is really special. I mean, sorry,
I
Maddie.
love that it has an Australian classic feel to it. You know, we all know it. It was in the curriculums. We studied it in school. It has this sort of underlying truth of, you know, the stolen generation and what happened in this country, that brutal colonial history that it impacts all of us as First Nations people. Steph, you play one of the Stolen Generation's members who experienced the Stolen Generation. Tell us about your character and what sort of personal experience do you bring to the play?
Well, I play a character called Anne, who is taken from her family and adopted by a white family. And throughout the play, we follow her journey of reconnecting with her black family and how that affects her and her feelings of identity and belonging. And I mean, I feel very deeply connected to this play as well. My nan was a member of the Stolen Generation. Her and her 9 brothers and sisters were all taken from their home in Coomerina and brought down to a place in WA in Perth called Sister Kate's, which was a home for Aboriginal children where they were trained to be domestic servants, which is, you know, basically a slave.
Yeah, slavery.
Yeah. And which is how she described it as well. She said, I just felt like this little slave girl. And my auntie, my nan's daughter, was then taken from her when she was a baby as well. So in this play, I see members of my family in each one of these characters. And so, really deeply connected to it, and such an honour to get to tell these stories and tell their stories.
Well, Ian, you've said, I read that you said, you know, as a First Nations person, you are, whether it's directly or indirectly, affected by the Stolen Generations in this country. I know that you have a direct connection to the Stolen Generations. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience for your father?
Yeah, well, you know, with the history of the Stolen Generations and the timeline in which we know it as, and, you know, what we know, the kind of the out-of-home care statistics now of children. So my dad was taken from his father in 1973, which is, you know, outside of the timeline of the Stolen Generations. And he was removed with all of his siblings, and they were all taken and split up into different homes. And he was taken because the government said that a black man can't raise children. And so, you know, like Steph said, like through the kind of early stages of rehearsing the play, that we'd all just sit around the table and talk about our families, and, you know, every single one of us has a story or has stories of family who were directly removed, or, you know, living with someone from the Stolen Generations too. And I think the way in which, like, we were all able to share that and, like, hold those stories with each other and for each other, like, it's been like one of the most rewarding and humbling experiences of theatre I've ever had in my life. And yeah, like Steph was saying, every single one of those characters, like, we see them, we know them
in ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had the community night last week, and you know, I said pre-show to the audience, I said, there's always, as an artist, you always ask yourself why, and who you're making theatre for, who you're telling stories for. And it was all of those people in that theatre on that night. Yeah, it was really special.
Yeah, I've heard that. It's like, I'm currently studying acting at acting school here in Melbourne, and there's so many things that I've learned more about myself than anywhere. And I had to ask myself throughout the breakdowns and the discovery and the obviously doing the work internally, you have to sort of sometimes pull yourself out of it and remember and validate your experiences, because you're bringing that to the work. And I mean, as a writer, as a performer, as an actor, like, you have to bring your own experiences, but it's so hard sometimes when those experiences are so close to you. And I had to sort of remind myself of the why. And I love that, because it's like, why am I doing this, and why am I putting myself through this, and why am I doing, and we, you know, Maddie and I always are driven by our why of why we started this podcast, why we want to tell people's story, why we want to talk to you guys, why we want to talk to anyone who wants to share those stories as well. And I had to remind myself of the why I did it. And I think it's because I want these stories like you guys out there, and for people to see themselves in a way that, you know, makes them feel seen and heard, which is not always easy, because especially of our history and our, you know, the context of it. But I think it's such a magical, beautiful thing that I've really learnt through the power of storytelling. And I think, yeah, I'm so admirable, like, towards you guys, because you're able to execute that and see that as well, and see the effect on people as well. So what was that community night like?
It was amazing. It felt like everyone was there with us every step of the way, like we were all breathing together, is how it felt. And afterwards in the foyer, I had this uncle come up to me and say, and he was a member of the Stolen Generation, and how deeply he was moved by it. And to me, to know that we are doing their stories justice is so so uplifting, and makes me just go like, oh, this is exactly why we're doing it. I just think every night, if there's just one blackfella in the audience, if it's for them and we're telling, you know, their stories justice, then that is enough, you know. So yeah, it was an amazing night. I mean, community night for any show is always incredible, but for this, it really felt special. Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of opening night. There obviously, what I could see, there wasn't a dry, you know, eye in the house. We were all moved and affected by what we saw. I want to ask about the rehearsal room, and Ian, I know that you create such a safe space. You know, it's known, you've got a reputation to be, you know, a really delicate and loving, you know, director, and in the industry. And I feel like this is a room that the base and, you know, what you create is it needs to be safe, and it needs to make sure that, you know, the actors feel nurtured. What are some of the ways that you do that as a director to make sure that your cast feel supported when they're carrying such weighted stories?
Well, I think, you know, as a director, the greatest privilege is creating space, and then who you get to put in those spaces. That's the greatest privilege for me. And it's the reason I got into directing, was to create spaces for blackfellas to tell our stories. You know, being an actor and then going into directing, you kind of just have an understanding of what an actor's experiences and processes are as you move through rehearsals. And you know, I've been really lucky. I've had really great rehearsal processes, and I've had not so good ones. So I've learnt so much from my own experiences as a performer. The big thing that I always lead with every time I run a room or start a day is I always want to respond to how everybody is feeling, because it's the only way that I want to operate is where people are at every single day. And how far we can go with telling that story that day. Especially with plays like this. And Steph and I worked on another play called The Bleeding Tree, which was, you know, about domestic violence. And we can't tell these stories unless there's moments that we can all just like press pause and laugh. Or, you know, at each other or with each other. But for me, it's always about responding to the people in the room and how they are, because I just don't believe in making people... These actors are already giving so much of themselves every night on that stage, and so I never wanted in the room for them to feel like they couldn't do it, or that they couldn't do it safely, or that they couldn't leave the work in the room every day. So it's always about the people.
It's a really strong ensemble that you have, and you've been able to pick and choose and put this together. When I was in the rehearsal room, Brooke, I had a chance to go through and watch rehearsals because I was interviewing for NITV.
Yeah.
And I was sort of looking around the room and I was just thinking to myself, like, there's so much talent in that space, you know, from, you know, directing, assistant directing to, you know, even the stage design, but also the cast. What does it take to put together such a, you know, a deadly cast? And were there people that you had in mind and didn't have to audition? Someone like Steph, who you're just like, okay, she's amazing. I absolutely know that she's going to kill this, so she just can have the role. Should we call her Martu Merrill? Meryl Streep. She's
Meryl Streep.
Yes. And speaking of laughter, we did, us three were in a show together, you know, Black Showgirls.
Yeah.
And when you said pause and laugh, all I was thinking about was the Black Showgirls. I mean, how different it was to this show. But
How fun. I love that show, by the way. I nearly pissed myself.
But you know, this room it's beautifully crafted, and it's testament to you, but also the actors. But what does it take to put together a space like this?
It's pretty easy when you've got like actors,
Good talent,
you know, of the caliber and skill that we have in the industry that we have. This is the third play that Steph and I have worked together on.
She's a favourite. Whatever.
Bias.
So I knew Steph Sommerville had to be in it.
Yes.
Megan Wilding, I knew had to be in it. And then Katanya Maynard and Jaren Andy are both actors that we auditioned for Ruby and Jimmy. And they came in, and you know, you get like self-tapes from around the country, and then we did a day of auditions for those two characters. And Katanya came in and said to me, I've prepared the monologue 3 ways. How do you want to? Which one do you want to see? And I was like, show me all of them. And she showed me 2, and I was like, that's enough. Ooh. I was like, I don't need to see anything more from her.
Wow.
And then she, you know, and like she walked out of the room, and I was like, that's Ruby. I was like, I don't need to see anybody else.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and Jaren Andy was the first actor I saw for Jimmy in the room, and he walked out, and I was like, that's Jimmy.
He's deadly. He blew me away on stage. I think that he has such, like, he's fresh, right? He's like, this is his first stage play. But to give a performance like that at Sydney Theatre Company and have that as your debut, it's like, fuck yes. Like, like you're meant to be here. This is exactly what you're meant to be doing. And I saw that in him, and it excited me because, you know, he's obviously very talented in the TV presenting world. And so, like, we've crossed paths a lot. But to see him on stage, it was a moment where I felt so celebrated for him in particular.
Absolutely. Him and Katanya both have not done a lot of theatre, and again, like, the privilege of being a director is to give people opportunities. And like, I've been afforded so many great ones. And so to give Jaren his first play, and for him to do what he's doing in that play, like, it's like something to absolutely celebrate. You know? And I remember after our first preview, and he was like, that's my first show I've ever done in front of an audience. And I was like, you're gonna be kidding me.
That's
so brilliant. And Matthew Cooper, who plays Sandy in the show, I've known Matty for a long time.
Brilliant.
And like, in casting these roles, I knew that every single one of these actors, like, there's a reason why everyone's in the room, right? And for all of these actors, I just wanted them to be able to flex and showcase their entire range and skill. But also to let the audiences and the industry know, like, what blackfellas can do, and the range that we have in storytelling. And
bit of pressure on him for doing the canned peas monologue for you. That was the first monologue you did, right? So it's like, how did it go? What did you think? Because I thought it was bloody brilliant.
No, I'm like, I saw the show on Saturday night after not seeing it for a few days, and usually you go in and just watch the play once or twice after it's opened, and I find it really hard to stay away, as Steph knows. But I just wanted to check in because of the kind of the process that we've had has just always been so close with each other, and I really just went just to check in on the show, and I was so blown away by all of you and the depths in which you're finding that story. I was like very, very proud.
Aww. You guys
made me cry.
It's true.
That's it. I'm flying to Sydney.
Yeah, come on.
Sis,
Are
come,
you
I want to see it
bringing
again. I'll come with you.
Bring it to Melbourne. I would
Yeah.
love.
Brooke, I just
love
know
that.
you, and you're going to be crying like the second scene, and I'm going to be like with that box of tissues next to you, like.
No, well, when Steph was, talking about Sister Kate's, like I have a connection with that as well. Like I know so many stories of my family with Sister Kate's, and it's very known in the Noongar. Noongars know what Sister Kate's is, so I felt really like I just dropped in then, and I was like, oh, that hurts a little bit. But obviously I haven't seen the play, and I would love to. So if you get the chance to bring it to Melbourne,
Tell everybody you know.
I know some people. I know where money is. Not kidding.
Tell us everything you know.
Wait, you just smile and blink. No, but just hearing the story, how proud you are, Ian, and how much this play meant to you, Steph, as well. Like, it's just so nice. I feel like when you said the depth of, or the scale of what First Nations performers and shows can be like as well, like, I feel like, obviously we've been around, but I think we're only just kind of like, this is not even, like, we've got more, you know what I mean? Like, it's only just kind of getting started. I know there's some great shows that have been previously out there, and I've seen some wonderful ones where I have been in the room crying, like bawling my eyes out. But I feel like we're only just kind of getting started, so
Absolutely. And also, like, who's running those rooms, and then it was the first kind of experience I've had as a director, and a few experiences that I've ever had with, like, the majority of people in our room were blackfellas, and then what that just does for the story, what it does for the process, it's like that thing about safety and care and all of that. It's like it just inherently happens because of who's in the room, and we're able to go to where we need to go with these stories because we've got each other, and the way in which this mob like hold each other and hold each other up is never ceases to amaze me.
I want to ask a question just about, you spoke about range, and I suppose in this show there is, much range that you get to experience as an actor. But when you're in a show like this, it's quite heavy. Is the, I suppose, the aspiration for the next show to be something totally different so that you can find your way out of that deep, somber energy that you sort of live through while doing this work? Or doesn't come into play at all? It's like whatever's next will be.
I don't know. I mean, I always just, want to do something that challenges me in some way. But yeah, for me, when it comes to like whatever I'm doing next, I'm just like, I just hope I'm working with amazing people, that, it's exciting. I feel challenged. It's a good group of people. That's what I look for. But I'll do anything.
Well, speaking of challenging, I want to know, like, what has been the most challenging part of this show? For you?
I mean, definitely the personal connection has been the hardest part for me. And usually I'm not an actor that loves doing all that, like that method kind of work. I'm not the kind of person that goes, I'm going to attach my own personal experience to this scene in order to get the most out of it. But you just cannot help it with this play. Everything is just so close. And so I just found myself a lot having to be like, okay, I need to ground myself now. I need to be able to go to those places in the room to tell this story, but I have to be able to come back to my own body.
Back to Steph,
And having the room that we have, having Ian and all the other cast members, it really felt like we're all holding each other's hands and saying, like, I got you, it's going to be all right. But yeah, also preemptively, going into the space preemptively knowing that it was going to be hard in that way and going, okay, I know I'm going to have to look after myself. I know I'm going to have to do those self-care things. And I'm going to have to do them before, you get into a bad headspace to stop yourself from
spiraling.
Going there. Exactly. But we also had an amazing psychologist come in and do a few sessions with us about, how to ground ourselves and give us a few techniques so that it didn't take us too too dark of a place,
Yeah.
which I think was really amazing. And I was like, man, I don't know why, we don't have this more often in rehearsal rooms, because it was such an amazing resource. But yeah.
I love that the industry's changing in that way, where it is more about the care of the actors, and it's you want longevity in this field.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
to take care of yourself so that you can perform for a long time, and not be too affected by the work. But Ian, I want to know, what do you want the audiences to take away? They come see this show, where I feel like we are on a journey of truth telling in this country.
Yes.
This plays a big part in it. What does it offer to that journey?
There's a quote that Jane Harrison said that I kind of have been carrying with me a lot through the process of this, and even thinking about the way in which to make it and approach the all of the ideas in making it. And she says something along the lines of that this play isn't from our past, but it is absolutely in our present, and that the play absolutely does that too. Like, past and present are constantly like meeting each other. So for audiences, that these stories aren't part of history; they are happening right now, and that there's an understanding of that, and a deep understanding of that. But also for our Aboriginal audience members, that we, in telling these stories, are honouring those people, and I think that's what I hope we're doing.
Yeah.
So I think. Really, I think a lot about people having an understanding that this isn't over.
Yeah.
And for these 5 characters, even when they, at the end, there's no real resolution for these characters, which is kind of the power of Jane's writing, is that these characters are just kind of constantly, the way in which even the play begins and ends is kind of like, there's no ending. It's like we spoke a lot about in rehearsals, like that these 5 characters are almost like these kind of ghosts with memories that come out of the walls, and that it's like these characters are just 5 characters, but it could be any of 5 characters who've got these kinds of stories to tell, who are just kind of constantly, like, they could just start the play again. It's like, that's what it feels like. And I think for audience members, that they should have an understanding that that it's not historic. It's not a historic play. It's not something that was written 26 years ago and that was it. Like, this is still happening, and it's happening much, much worse.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
What happened on our first preview, there was an inquiry in South Australia about babies being taken as soon as they were born in hospitals, and that was happening on the day of our first preview. And then there's a moment at the end of the play, is like, what has happened since the apology? Nothing.
Nothing.
What has happened since the referendum in the 70s? Nothing.
Nothing.
Over the
Yeah.
I think that I really want people to think about this play, even though, like, we think about the Australian canon in theatre, for example, being like plays that are 26 years old, like they're considered the canon work, and but that this play is absolutely like about now.
Yeah.
It's absolutely about
this
now.
present moment, 100%. I mean, my sister's baby was taken immediately from the hospital. Like, that was only a couple of years ago. He's only 4, so you know what I mean. It's very present. It's very raw, and it's not an easy thing to listen to or to hear or to read about, let alone perform and direct and then execute that. So a huge credit to you guys for doing that and telling the truth telling of our history. And I know that we need this more in a not in a a way that we want to keep readdressing, but keep telling, I guess, and keep passing that knowledge down.
Also, sis, I just want to say I'm so sorry that happened to your family, because that's so devastating.
Thank you. My I'm still. I mean, Matty and I talk about this really openly about how the reoccurring effects and how much it has an impact on us, but how much it just gives us that fire in our belly just to be like, fuck, like, just keeps doing it.
Takes us back to the start, the why.
Yeah. We're also deeply connected to this story, even though I haven't even seen it. But I'm like, I'm there. I'm already there.
I suppose, I think we'll probably wrap up soon, but I want to say, this is a First Nation story about First Nations experiences, but it is a story for the whole of Australia to come to terms with, to grapple with, and to take on. It's not just for us to hold the weight of what's happened to our people. It's about, accountability, seeing how you can change the systems that operate in your favour, because they're still operating, and one of the ways that I feel like people can learn more and be more accountable and more honest with their self and their privilege is by seeing this show. Go and sit for an hour and a half and experience, the heartbreak, the tragedy,
the uncomfortableness, but
being uncomfortable,
acknowledging.
It's definitely a way in which we can all heal together, as a nation. But I want to say a big thank you because I'm so honoured to be your friends, but also to have you on our pod because
me too.
I just know that the world of theatre and the arts are in really good hands with both of you. I know that this is as much as this is the pinnacle of your work right now, there is so much more to come. I'm so excited to see you running theatre companies around the world and doing and doing what you do best. And Steph, our Matu Merrill, you're going to be killing it for years to come. So I'm super thrilled that we're going to have you on today. And,
me too.
Love you, Mob.
The feeling's so mutual.
Yeah.
The way in which you two and have this platform and what you do with this platform and the stories that you tell and the people you have on, it's so inspiring. I've truly all day have just been waiting to get here because I've just been
we've finally made it.
You guys think that is so beautiful.
I was in London at the start of the year listening to your podcast and just going feeling so far away from home but had you in my ears and I was thank you for all of the work that you do too.
Thank you. Best of luck for the continued shows. I hope to see it in Melbourne and I'll be spreading the word. If there's anything we can do as well to spread the word other than this episode of the podcast, let us know because we would love to give it more time.
Share it
and
on your socials. Get more people.
We will.
That's the thing. Same thing with theatre audiences. Is how do we make more theatre, to make riskier theatre? It's getting new audiences and bigger audiences to theatre.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to write a tree part in, Brooke is there, okay?
Done.
Thank you.
Love you, sis.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to First Things First. That was the deadly Ian, Michael and Steph Sommerville. Make sure you look them up, follow them. Go see Stolen if you get a chance. It's in Sydney at Sydney Theatre Company, Wharf 1.
And if you loved what you hear and you want to leave us a rating and a review, let us know. And if you want us to cover anything on the next episode, reach out via our socials. My handle is at Brooke.Blurton. Maddie's is at It's Maddie Mills. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Love yous. Bye.